Welcome to today's lesson, our learning target. I can simplify a radical or a square root. Here's our perfect square list. Remember that rational numbers are perfect squares as opposed to irrational numbers that are non-perfect squares. So here's an example. Radical 4, radical 9, and radical 16 are all perfect squares. We consider them rational. Radical 48, radical 20, and radical 32 are non-perfect squares, so we consider them irrational. So here's our perfect square list that's going to help us today when we're simplifying our radicals. We're going to go to our first example. So we have to simplify radical 48, or the square root of 48. So whenever you break down a radical, you're going to break it down into two radicals. The value that you put underneath the first radical is going to come from your perfect square list. So refer back to your perfect square list. You want the largest factor of 48. So you look at the values underneath the radical, also known as a radicand. You want to find the biggest number or largest factor of 48. So I'm looking through my list. I believe 16 is the largest factor, so we're going to try that on our calculator. 48 divided by 16, so that works. So I'm going to come back over here. This is going to simplify to 16 and 3. And remember, whatever you put under here, you want it to be the largest factor from your perfect square list. Followed by the other factor that you will need to multiply the original factor by to get your radicand. So square root of 16, that's a perfect square. If you type it on your calculator, to type in a square root or a radical, you do second x squared, 16. That's going to break down to 4. And you're going to drop the other radical down with that, and you're finished. Now, a way you can check yourself is you can type in your original radical, type in your simplified answer, and see if the decimals match up. They should, in fact, match up. So we're going to check that. So radical 48, approximately 6.9, and then 4 radical 3, we get the same answer. So we know that we've simplified our radical correctly. Okay, down to number 3, radical 12. So again, we're going to break it down into two radicals. We want to go to our perfect square list. Find the largest factor of 12. So the largest factor of 12 here, I believe, is going to be the 4. So 4 times what will give you 12? 4 times 3 will give you 12. Square root of 4 is a perfect square. That's 2. And remember, you just drop this guy down after. Remember how you can check yourself. You can type in radical 12, find the decimal. Type in 2 radical 3, find the decimal, and they should match up. Okay, down to problem 5. Now, problem 5, radical 36. I threw this in there just to check. Radical 36 is a perfect square, so you're not going to break it down into the two radicals to simplify it because it's a perfect square. So when it's a perfect square, you're just going to write the value out. Radical 125. So 2 radicals. I'm going to go to my perfect square list. I'm going to find the largest factor of radical or of 125. So I think it's going to be 25. Let's check our calculator. 125 divided by 25. So that in fact does work. So 25 times 5. This is a perfect square, so radical 25 is 5. I'm going to drop this guy down, and I'm finished. I'm going to go down to number 9. Radical 18, so I'm breaking it down into 2 radicals. I want to find the largest factor of 18 for my perfect square list. So 1, 4, 9, I believe it's going to be 9. So 9 times what gives you 18? 9 times 2 gives you 18. 9 is a perfect square, it's 3. I'm going to drop down radical 2, and I'm finished. I'm going to try one more for today. Let's try problem 11. So we have radical 50. I'm going to break it down into 2 radicals. I'm going to look for a factor of 50 for my perfect square list, and I want the largest factor of 50 for my perfect square list. So we have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, I think will work. Let's check. 50 divided by 25. So that in fact does work. So 25 times what gives you 50? Times 2. This is a perfect square, it breaks down to 5. This guy just drops down, and you're finished.